Dr. Shurat, you are on my YouTube channel, and today I'm going to teach you the lessons of the normal physiology from the first to the end. And if you're a guy who wants to learn the normal physiology with the easiest explanation and in a short time, then you have to follow the new education system, which is called the medicine system, which I will teach you according to this system. It means that you have to follow my YouTube channel. The first topic of the normal physiology is that is about the membrane potential. So what is the membrane potential? So the rule is difference in electrical charge between inside and outside of the cell. So I will come back to the rules when we will match it when during the explanation, the process. So there's three types of the membrane potential. So the resting membrane potential, action membrane potential, and the graded membrane potential. So you can call it RMP and AMP and graded membrane potential. So we're gonna start from the resting memory potential, and before starting I want you to understand the purpose and the meaning of this topic. So what is why we should know about the memory potential? So you have the cell outside of outside of your body and inside of your body. So your body totally consists from the cell, and the membrane potential is the meaning of the membrane potential is that the changing of the state of your cell from this resting to the action. How your cell, when it was in a state of the rest, will change to the state of the action. For example, it will change by the stimuli. For example, we have the pain, pressure, touch, temperature stimuli. This all is stimuli. It's outside stimuli, and you have inside stimuli, like for example the impulse. So imagine that this is the stimuli which I hold. Let's imagine that it's needle, so it will give me a pain, and this is my hand. So out in the surface of my hand, I have the cell which is now in a state of the resting, and I will affect with this stimuli, which is needle, on my hand, and the cell which was on my hand, it will change from the resting, they will resting, and when I will affect, I will change it to the state of the action. So now membrane potential is that we're gonna study which structure was inside your cell, which structure was outside of your cell, and when we affect with the stimuli, how they change. So we're gonna study about this. So let's start. So resting membrane potential. So here's a cell, and this cell is in a state of the resting. So I want you to know about the structure of your cell. So your cell is consists from the membrane, right? So this membrane is consists from the phospholipid layer, and the structure of the membrane is we have here we have the pump, right? Here we have the pump, right? And we have the channel. We have the channel, we have the pump, and we have the channel. Those are the structure of the membrane of your cell. And the membrane by itself is consists from the phospholipid layer. So now during the resting, when your cell is resting, we're gonna see which structure is inside and outside of your membrane. So you have the sodium. So sodium, I will not fulfill the whole cell. I will write the less amount, and you have the sodium outside of your cell. So it's positive, it's cation. So it's the sodium, and you have the potassium outside of your cell and inside of your cell. So you have here also potassium. So beside this, this was the cation which is inside your body, inside your cell, and we have the anion which can be the chlorine. Outside we also have chlorine, we have phosphor, we have sodium, right, and a lot of anion. So this was the outside of your cell and this was the inside of your cell. And as we see, there is sodium and potassium outside and there is sodium and potassium inside of the cell. So the difference is that, let's get first sodium. Here's the sodium, right? And we have amount of the sodium, the inner part of your cell and outer part of your cell. So we have the ratio. It will be 10 by 1. No, it's vice versa. It is 10 by 1. This is the ratio. So it means that 10 times more the sodium outside of your cell. And what is the ratio of the potassium? Here's the potassium. So inner and outer. So outer and inner. So in the inner side of the cell, the potassium is more. The ratio will be 50 per 1. So 50 per 1. So it doesn't mean that there is 50 amount of the potassium inside your cell. No, it is the ratio, and it's not mean that there is only one potassium outside the cell. This is the ratio to you to understand that the potassium is more inside of your cell and there is less outside of your cell. But doesn't mean that there is only one potassium inside or outside of your cell. So this was the structure and the state of your cell during the resting. So, and now what we're gonna do, we're gonna move to the action memory potential. We're gonna see that how the state of your cell will change from the resting to the action. And so let's have some fun. So we're gonna have stimuli, which gonna be pain, okay? And we will affect with this stimuli to this cell, right? This cell was in a state of the resting. We're gonna bother him and we will affect him with a stimuli, which gonna be the pain. And we're gonna see how this cell will change from the resting to the action. And let's take a look. So you had the sodium and potassium outside and inside, right? And when we will affect, what will happen? Before explaining this, I want you to remember something which called the between the sodium and potassium is repulsive force. So what does it mean? Imagine that you have two magnets, right? So these two magnets, they have the positive charge. You will pick the positive charge and positive side, and you will try to match this two positive side, and you cannot because they're positive and they will push each other from each other. So here's the same. The sodium and potassium, which is outside our cell, is in that both is positive, right? And they will push each other. Because of this, the sodium will not enter. But what we did, we affect with a stimuli, with a pain, right? And I want you to imagine like there's the quiet guy, right? And he's not speaking, and you always bother him, and one day he will say, it's done. I will answer to these guys, and you will reach his threshold. You will reach his patience. So he will answer you. He will push you. He will push you back. So here's the same. The sodium during the resting, which is outside your cell, is resting with a chloride. Imagine that the chloride is a girlfriend of the sodium, and in outside of the cell, the sodium is resting, and he doesn't want to have any relationship with the potassium. He doesn't care about the potassium. But until when you will affect with the stimuli, which will be pain, pressure, temperature, whatever you want to say, and you will affect. And this sodium, when was with a chloride, and he doesn't care about the inside of the cell, will decide to enter inside of your cell. And what he gonna do? He will try to enter to the inside of your cell, but he cannot because there is another positive charge, which is potassium. in the outside of your membrane. But so as we remember, the ratio of the sodium will be 10 is a 10 by 1. It means that the sodium is more outside and the potassium is less outside. And when the sodium will try to enter to the cell, there will be a repulsive force. So this repulsive force, it's like, as we said, its magnet will push each other, because they cannot. They both are positive, and but because of the stimuli is too high, they will not give up. They will try, and what it's going to be is that they will remove one by one. They will remove one by one, not all of them immediately, one by one. So in the next part of our lecture, I'll explain you all this process in a graphic, and in a graphic you will see that the graphic will show that the entering of the potassium will be slowly, and then it will go up. So it means that the potassium cannot enter to the cell immediately. It will enter slowly by removing one by one the potassium. So the sodium will, with a repulsive force, will try to enter to the cell with the channels. They will try to enter to the cell with channels. For example, we have the sodium channel, we have the potassium channel, we have the potassium and sodium pump. So each of them, they have their own channel, and they have own pump. So he will try to enter, right? He will try. He leave his girlfriend, right? Chlorine, potassium, phosphorus, sodium. He will leave it, and he will try to find another one inside of cell, because there's a lot of beach inside of cell. So he will try to enter inside of your cell. And what we're gonna see, so now we're talking about the process of the action memory potential. So your sodium will start entering inside of your cell. So they will start entering inside of your cell. Like there's no only one channel. There's a lot of channel, but I draw only one. So they will start entering, right? And they will remove the potassium. Like they will remove it, because there's more sodium outside of your cell. So they will remove, and they will enter to your cell. So they will enter to your cell. So it means that the amount of the sodium will be more. It will starting getting more inside of your cell. So they will leave the girlfriend, which was in outside, right? So they will leave them, and they will enter to the cell because of the stimuli. So we affect, and we see that the channel is open. The channel is open, and they will start not immediately. Remember this: they will not enter immediately. They will enter slowly, but they will. For example, imagine that outside of your cell you have the let's get example like 10. You have 10 potassium outside of your cell, right? So, and you have, for example, 20 sodium outside of your cell. It's an example. So they have the power to stop them, right? Because they're positive. This is positive. They both are positive. But when the potassium will start removing one by one the potassium, which is outside of the cell, so it will be 9, and it will be 8, it will be 7, and amount of the sodium is still the same, it's 20. So it means that there will be no repulsing force, there will be no potassium which will hold the sodium to enter. So then the graphic, which we'll study in the next part, will show that the entering of the sodium will be in a peak, it will go up. So this has been the this is how the sodium will enter inside of your cell during the from the resting to the action. And I want you to understand there is some rule which called all or nothing. So what does it mean, all or nothing? So it means that uh, you have the threshold, right? The threshold, imagine the threshold like a limit. So it's like if it means that all or nothing, right? It means that, for example, if they will not enter 20 sodium from the outside to the inside, there will be no action memory potential. It will be if there will be it will be 19 or 15, and it will not reach the threshold. It will not reach the limit. There will be nothing. So if will be the sodium will enter in a 20 amount, it will be all. It means it will be action. It will be action. But if it will be 90, it will be no action. It will be nothing. So we will study about the threshold. What is the meaning of threshold in the next part? But I want you to remember this rule. This is the rule. This is the rule for the action and memory potential. And we have the next part is graded potential. So what is graded potential? So the meaning of the graded potential is local. It is the local. So this is the local. And what does it mean? I will bring you example in a neuron because there's cell, and I will bring you an example in another cell, for example, skin cell inside your organ, like another one. So it means that there's rule. Before I explain you, I will explain you the rule. The rule here will be less or more. So, because it will be local, it means that you affect to this cell, right? Will affect to this cell, this stimuli, and this time our stimuli, for example, will be touch, right? So your state in a state of your cell in a state of the resting, right? And you will touch it. So as you see, there's no pain, there's nothing that will hurt your cell, right? It will feel the touch, but it will understand that there's nothing hurting me, right? And what's gonna happen is that they will be changing, right? But it will be local. For example, if I will touch this cell is the cell of my skin. So we will affect the stimuli will touch, and we will touch it, and this part, the local part of your cell, will be activated. For example, the sodium, right? The sodium will enter to this from this side. So you have the channel from this side, you have from this side, but sodium will enter from this side in a little amount without reaching the threshold. And this on this part, the little amount part of your cell will activate, like it will be less. And so we said, and another example in a neuron, for example, imagine that there's impulse in a neuron, and it will not reach from the dendrite to the axon. It will reach only axon, right? Let's draw it here. So here you have the dendrite, right? This is the dendrite, and this is the axon, right? Okay, this is the axon, this is the axon terminals. So imagine that we will affect to this axon, will not affect, the impulse will be here, and here's the impulse, right? Impulse. So it will affect. So the meaning of the graded potential, the meaning of the local, it means that in a neuron, for example, it means that it will reach the cell and dendrite, and the stimuli will not go to the axon. So it will not reach the axon. It will affect only in dendrite, or if, for example, it will affect on the axon, one of them, and it will not reach the whole neuron. So that was the meaning of the local. It means that you can affect with less stimuli to your cell, or you can affect with more stimuli, like more. If you will affect more, it will maybe reach the half of the axon and full of the dendrite. So that is the graded potential. And the rule is here less or more. The rule about the resting memory action memory potential is all or nothing. So that was about the action memory potential and the resting memory potential. So now we're gonna start the next part of our lecture.